How is the energy in the room after lunch? Excellent, and what a great lunch. Got a suitable food baby going on now. Could have a little nap, but we've got more important things to do this afternoon. We've had a great first half, I think you'd agree. Great sessions looking at how tech is going to make its mark in the realms of health and fitness, space, money, transport, spirituality, and so much more. And we have another second half, a brilliant program for you this afternoon. And we're kicking things off, talking all things education. So we're going to explore the future of education, where AI-driven solutions, emerging technologies, and career counselling play a central role in empowering students to thrive in this rapidly ever-changing world. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the stage my all-knowledgeable panelists. Please welcome to the stage Akshay Chaturvedi, founder from Leverage Edu, and Ashlyn Conboy, program director at Wilton Park. Give them a round of applause. All right, take your seats. You've got the single chair. So first things first, how are you both?
Very well, thank you. It's
Excellent.
lovely. It's lovely to get outside in a conference. Oh my goodness, so nice, and it's such interesting discussions.
Yeah.
We're super excited.
Yeah, you're bringing the energy on email, so I've been looking forward to actually bringing the energy on stage.
I'll take the compliment.
So we are going to go far into the future for my first question. It's 2035. That's where we're at. What wildest sci-fi dreams have come true, and how has technology impacted the education industry?
You want me to go first?
First, you go first.
I think by 2030, 31, we would already have figured out how to be at Mars. So I don't think this will be happening in London. I think this will be happening somewhere on another planet. That's one. And I think we put too much emphasis on how things will happen. I think sometimes you should just let chaos reign. And
Yes.
I think AI is smarter than most of us, at least smarter than me. And I think they would have figured out how learning can be more continuous. They would have figured out how curriculums can redesign themselves rather than educators trying to redesign them. They would have figured out how learning is not going to be just about schools and colleges. It's going to be about continuous learning for anybody and everybody, like this conference.
Yes.
And everybody is trying to upgrade themselves all times. So I am pretty excited about what the next decade is going to unfold.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. You know, as someone in this tech industry, we always look into our crystal ball and be like, where are we going to be? And it's like, you know, sometimes you don't know where we're going to be. Life just throws curveballs, new developments happen, technologies evolve or, you know, deplete at different rates. And it's easy for us to look into that crystal ball and think this is how it's going to be. But sometimes just be patient and let's just roll with it and see how it goes, right? Go on, Ashley, what are you going to say?
Yeah, good question. Well, the optimism I share with you, definitely. In my dream world of ideal, it would be that education, access to high quality education is opened up, because I think all of us have an opportunity to either make sure that a few people have access to high quality education,
Yes.
or that we open it up. And I think with AI and technology, we have the chance to make sure that irrespective of where you live, what country, what background, that you have access to really good education. So I'm optimistic. Some of the sci-fi that I read, I've read, I'm a history and politics student, is probably maybe a little bit gloomier in terms of the future, but I'm really optimistic. I really hope that education and with the emerging technologies that we can actually harness and make sure that we solve some of the critical global challenges that we have.
Yes.
And that access is probably the key thing that I hope that AI can do for us. You mentioned about, you know, we can't gaze into the future sometimes. I talked to some people at lunch and I asked them, right, you know, what's your role? What do you do? When you were at school or at university, did you know that your job existed? Most people didn't.
Yes.
I didn't know.
Well said.
Absolutely.
And that wasn't necessarily through the scale of change that we can expect in the next 10 years. So I think for any of us to think that we know actually what it's going to be like in 10 years, I'm not sure that we can.
I think that is one of the problems of the education realm, isn't it? It's very kind of, you know, it's stuck in its ways, and it's like, you know, you've got all these particular subjects and you think we're going to do this. It's like there's so many opportunities, that one that we don't even know yet, but so many newfangled opportunities that are coming out of the woodwork that maybe certain older educational models don't really set people up for. And that's where the change needs to happen. It really does need a shake-up, doesn't it? Yeah, so what's happening now in the education space that is paving the way for this future that you've just painted?
I think if I have to take a quick take at it, I don't think a lot is changing, unfortunately. So it's my turn to be a bit gloomy. First of all, there are not going to be these headsets. I think they're too bulky. But I think we're still, and we were talking about it just before the session started, people are still working in silos. And in the name of technological advancements, in the name of things really changing and unfolding in the future, I think there's very little happening. The change has to be way more radical. The change has to be way more all-encompassing. It has to be very, very comprehensive. And it has to happen across all stakeholders. So when I think about, I represent the international student voice in the room. And when I think about international students, sometimes sitting out, there are employees sitting out here who are saying that, hey, we're very excited about AI. Students are saying that, hey, we're very excited about AI. But the home office does not really share the same excitement about AI.
Yes.
Or about bringing the students and giving them the best exposure sometimes. Or the universities don't think enough about, is AI about that one module at the end of a 4-year program? Or is AI going to be how we study every single day? So I think it really has to be redrawn, I think you used that word, in a very radical way from ground up, rather than we saying that, okay, let's sprinkle a bit of it, spray and pray, and let's see what magic it can kind of draw up. So I think there's a need to go back to the drawing board and do things up again completely.
Yeah, and it's about getting everybody on the same page as well, isn't it? We've got all these ideas, but if the people at the top who are going to make things happen, the decision makers, aren't on the same page and have that same vision, it's not going to go anywhere, really, is it? And I think that's where the hurdle lies. I think there's so much amazing technology and educational tools available right now, and some territories, some countries, some universities, schools, they're investing in it, but it's not really that widespread. They're not kind of jumping on this digital revolution as, I write about this stuff all the time, but in reality, it's not happening as much.
Correct.
And that's the sad part about it. Yeah. So let's talk about AI, obviously. How do you see AI really reshaping the experience for students?
Maybe I'll take that one, shall I, first? I think the opportunity for personalised learning is massive. So I think already we've seen it, like, most of my friends are learning a language on an app at the moment. They're not necessarily in school, they're not necessarily in university, but this kind of continuous learning. And I think the education space is changing. Like, we talk, I think, for a long time about lifelong learning. To some extent, I think AI and technology will really enhance it. With the changes of jobs and careers and the sense of upskilling and reskilling, I think it will really, really be important. But also with gamification, it's become kind of fun, right?
Oh, yes.
And it's become competitive. I know a lot of people who are learning new languages that are, always tell me what their scores are and where they are. So all of that is very exciting and dynamic. So I think hopefully we can use it to the benefit and to make sure also that we have students and teachers who have devices and access to devices, that we don't actually increase inequality potentially, but that we make sure that everybody has access. So if we have learning and if we have the technology, that it's wide and it's open.
And do you say, go on, Akshay.
So very quickly, I of course share the same enthusiasm, but if you look at there are two kinds of AI, and in fact 3. There's enterprise AI as well, but for this discussion, there's consumer AI and then there's Gen AI. I think we're doing very well in terms of adaptation of consumer AI, and that means everything that was just spoken about. But there is, again, I'm going to go back to the similar point that I made previously. We're really not thinking about how we can go out and comprehensively take it to the next level. How can we really build our own models? So for example, we were talking about, we had a bunch of AI panels all across these last 3 or 4 days, but can we think about, can IGF build its own large language model or maybe a smallish model? We did the small roundtable day before. Maybe at the roundtable we should have said that, hey, we have all these ideas, can we really build a model around it? I don't think we're thinking in that direction right now. We're still thinking about, okay, ChatGPT is cool, now they have the image version, now they have the video version, I'm going to adapt it, and then this all sounds very hunky-dory. But I think if we really are going to be thinking about careers of the future, as what this panel is called, I think we have to make everybody, I'm not saying make everybody a coder, but I think make everybody a much better student of what AI really means and how they have to play with it as a tool, as a maker, not just as a kind of absorber.
And like starting with the basics, the fundamentals, so people have a deep understanding of it rather than just kind of seeing the headlines and maybe the stigma attached to maybe the negative side of AI and things like that. So I'm
saying it has to be as important as math or English or CPR. So everybody kind of knows the basics of it.
Yeah, exactly. And like we said, there's definitely a shake-up that needs to happen, isn't it? So do you think that AI-driven personalised learning systems, they really do have this power to transform traditional educational models? Maybe not so much now. This is where we're going, kind of to what you were saying, Aisling.
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. And the points that you made, that we haven't gone far enough. Sometimes I think there's a perception, AI and technology, that's for people over there. I'm not a technologist, clearly not, but I've worked in education for a long time and with universities and interested in education. But sometimes it's like that this is a thing for the future and it's over there and I don't need to know. And I think we realize now all of us need to know, because all of our lives are being shaped by it, not just in education, but everything we do, technology is impacting our lives. So I think the potential in terms of personalization is really big, and I look forward to it. And I guess as a learner as well, I think just the access to things that maybe if you live, in a city, you have access to lots of resources, but if you have connectivity and if you have access to devices, and we have AI and personalized learning, and I think it's a very exciting time for all of us to expand education. But I think quality is the key thing for me.
Yes.
Is that just because we have lots of things, and in discussions at this roundtable, we talked about data. Like data, we need people to analyze it as well and to see how are we going to use the data. And I think for me that brings in ethics and what we do with AI as well.
And I'm coming on to ethics.
If I can just quickly add to that, Lucy, I think the change has already happened. I would in fact agree to what you said right at the beginning. I think the distribution hasn't happened. It hasn't reached in all corners of the world. If you have to go to a village in Pakistan and say that, hey, we are doing all this cool stuff, have you even heard about it? And they would say, huh? What are you talking about? And I think that distribution needs to follow up much faster. And for that, everybody in the room is responsible. I think that is as simple as writing a small check and figuring out the right, maybe at the end of the event, we have like, okay, these are the 10 organizations that are supporting the right distribution of what has already been done. And we move out in a much faster pace to do that.
Yeah. So staying within the realm just of personalization before I move on, do you think that AI-driven tools could potentially lead to a more dynamic and adaptable curriculum that evolves over time, based on student feedback and performance? So that's, I'm talking deeply personalized learning systems. Because, let's face it, you've got a classroom or a bunch of people, and everyone develops at different stages, different periods. Some people are at the front of the class, some people are at the back of the class. If you've got a system that adapts to people's learning, do you think that's something that could be incredibly beneficial to the education system?
I think it could, absolutely. But again, I think it's about resources and that we need to make sure people have access. So having very personalised adaptive learning is great. But I think we need to make sure that lots and lots of people have access to that, and it's not just an elite, that we're not actually reinforcing inequality. I would really like that as we use AI and it is adaptive, that it does actually reach different people, different stakeholders, whether you're in a rural area, whether you're in a city. Also things, I guess, that concern me, interested in women and girls education as well. When we look at generative AI and data sets, that we're actually looking, are we reinforcing stereotypes? Are we, or are actually we going to change things, that we're going to model what women and girls can be in the future, for example. So from a young age, we can actually use it for positive to make changes and to make women and girls have the same opportunities, and for us not to enhance maybe where we have glass ceilings and so on already.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point about, making sure this opportunities and this technology is accessible to everyone, I do think that's something that is eventually going to come over time. When something always hits the forefront, it's expensive, it's pricey, it's, only for kind of a select few. And as time goes on, it does trickle down to other industries, other territories, other groups of people and demographics. So hopefully this is something that we're going to be seeing. It's something we've seen with previous, like when netbooks were a thing and bringing ebooks into the classroom and things like that. It's at first it was like, this is really expensive territory, only maybe one per class or per school. But now there's quite a lot. There's a lot of initiatives and programs designed to make these things affordable for people. So we are moving in the right direction, but maybe not as quick as I'd like, we'd like.
If you look at COVID and how rapidly people had to, the transformations that we've had in education as a result of something we probably didn't expect, a lot of us that worked in education, then I think it's interesting to see how quickly things can shift.
Yeah, it was
but
pretty
also
impressive.
The inequalities as well that we can witness with that.
Yeah, and just how people pulled together to help the people that didn't have the access to make sure that everyone was learning during that time. Yeah, it's really quite eye-opening. It's funny, when your back's against the wall, what can happen, right?
And innovation as well, often coming out of times of difficulty. difficulty or crisis or a big technological change historically, I studied history and I'm interested in, even if you think about the Industrial Revolution a lot, of historic changes with innovation, people were scared at first, but then adapt and things change. So I think it's really important, and some of the speakers said it this morning, that we look back as well as forward when we're trying to predict the future.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned ethics earlier, so I just want to touch on that quickly. When it comes to AI in the education space, what are the ethical dilemmas that keep you up at night? I know you mentioned, girls and learning and things like that. Was there anything else that sticks to mind?
Yeah, I think for me, definitely, as I said, women and girls and kind of role models and all that. I think there's a lot of potential for good, but we need to kind of have the human kind of impact and kind of, just to watch in terms of data sets and so on. But I also think just in terms of equality generally and global equality.
Yes.
I mean, education and access to it. I'm very privileged, but I feel that not everybody in the world is as privileged as a lot of us are in terms of the educational backgrounds we have. So I think it's really important. Also, I guess, who controls the technology, how corporations work with the other stakeholders, whether it's with governments, whether it's with parents, with students, with kids. I think there's a huge amount of people involved in the education ecosystem, and that will continue, but where the power lies may change, and I think it's really important that we don't forget actually what all of us want to do. We want people to have great education, we want them to have happy, healthy lives. Even if you're a founder and entrepreneur or innovator in education, ultimately you might be a parent, a brother, a sister, so we need to think of the people that we're educating and to bring some humanity to what we do.
Yeah. Got anything to add?
I think I just look at ethical dilemma of a different lens. I have no apprehensions and all that. This fundamental reset is going to happen sooner than later. I think we're almost there. But before this reset happens, I think it's very important that we bring in the critical thinking, the ability to problem solve, the emotional ability to kind of understand what's happening with my peers. Because Lucy, I remember a time when we could not take shoes inside the computer room in my school. And things move very fast, and they're moving really fast right now as well. But what the education system of the last 2 decades did was it ensured that we were speaking about the sportsman spirit yesterday evening in another session. So I think all of those things should not be lost. And as long as that, those very important human, what's the right word for it? Those very important human abilities, I think they make their place in the new AI world. I think it's all going to be fine.
Yeah. And finally, because I can see the red timer going to be flashing at me soon. Akshay, given your work in talent mobility, how do you think we can prepare students for careers that don't exist yet? We touched on this earlier, ensuring that they're ready for AI and other emerging technologies and all these technology-driven courses that aren't yet on the job market. How do we prepare?
I don't think there's a way to prepare. I think the way to go about this is to really think about learning every single day. Because there's going to be a new career every single week. There's going to be something new to learn every single day. And as long as you have those basic tenets of critical thinking, ability to problem solve, and the momentum to upgrade yourself every single day. I think as long as those basic tenets are in order, you will be able to think about a new career, because I don't think anybody in this room can think about the careers that will be out there in 2030s.
No, you've got to take it as it comes, I guess, right? And just quickly before I get shouted at, what do you think is going to happen to the role of teachers, educators? As technology comes in and as technology comes in and teachers maybe get slightly phased out, where are they going to sit in all of this?
I still think, I think teachers will still be important, but obviously,
I hope so.
Hopefully reskilling teachers will be a really, really important thing too. So as we all have to work with AI and technology, actually they play a vital role to be assisted in their roles. A lot of the mundane tasks we can already see, can be done by AI. But I think the role of teachers will change, and they will have to adapt just as students will. So I think what you mentioned about not being able to know what's going to happen, I mean, a lot of it is that we have to expect to have change in our careers and to work with the technological
it's natural
change.
evolution, isn't it?
I think, so I'm the son of a teacher. I think, and I've seen my mom grade papers and do all the admin stuff like late into the night, which is all useless.
Same.
So I think I think the role of teachers will be the most important as we move into this new AI future. And we came across the stat together. Teachers teach only for 37% of the time. It is mad to think of it. The remaining 63%, they're only doing unnecessary administration stuff. So I think you think of AI and you think of AI ensuring that all the dirty stuff is taken care of. and the teachers can really do what they teach, they inspire, they innovate, they spend time with children. And when I think about my mom being able to do that more and not grading papers unnecessarily, I think that's the future I want to be in.
Yeah, and what a lovely sentiment to end our wonderful chat on. Come on, give it up for my lovely panelists, Akshay and Aisling. All right.